So Module 16, we're going to take a look at data center operations. So let's start out by looking at the data center operations structure. So we have the significant pieces in the data center. We'll have the fundamental facility, the core components, the support infrastructure, and the operations staff. All right, so the fundamental facility is made up of the building operations, the design, the engineering. So the facility is going to be that space that's accessible for the IT equipment to use. Typical data center is going to have a huge number of IT equipment that are constantly there. It's going to be a huge amount of power that's used to run it, and we need to keep it in the correct temperature, humidity, and positive pressure ranges to keep everything running smoothly. Therefore, it is essential that this thing is designed and equipped properly. All right, the core components refer to the devices and software that are essential for the IT operations and data storage. So these components can include storage units, heavy-duty servers, network infrastructures like switches, cables, routers, information security components like firewalls, data security software, and other parts of core components. All right, support infrastructure is going to include things that sustain the maximum availability of the data center. So some of those key components that support the infrastructure can be things like UPSs and battery backups and backup generators, right? Other power sources. Environmental controls like computer room air conditioners, ventilation, heating, air conditioning, and exhaust mechanisms. Also can include things like physical security systems like biometric devices, video surveillance equipment. Those are core components of that support infrastructure. And we've also got operations staff, right? Who are the people that work at the data center to make sure that all of the IT equipment remains functional, as well as other components inside of the data center. All right, so management of the data center is going to refer to the employees who are responsible for overseeing the electrical, mechanical, and IT areas of the data center. Right? The general data center management is going to involve upgrading hardware components, software components, operating systems, handling the data circulation and data storage needs, managing the backup procedures, emergency planning and precautionary steps, and offering technical guidance to the employees. So typically, we can categorize data center operations into four main categories. Okay, the category one could be the infrastructure operations. Right, these are the people who include setting up the data center, commissioning, monitoring, network resourcing, patching, updating security, updating servers, right, installing, installation, storage, maintenance, that kind of thing. This task could also include overseeing employees that update equipment. Security is going to cover the processes and the tools and technologies that protect the tangible assets in the data and data security within the data center. Right. So this role might include verifying that every data center employee has the correct permissions that they need, that are going to be aligned to that employee's responsibilities that they are responsible for. Power and cooling, it's going to be they're responsible for equipment and processes that assure that the required power supply remains intact and the cooling systems are in there to balance out that heat and avoid damage to the equipment. So we want to make sure that the power and cooling come in to keep powered onto the servers and make sure we're keeping the temperature range in the green for that. All right, so management is going to be the employees that are responsible for enforcing the policies and procedures, right? Management task in here might be applying corrective actions when a procedure is being performed incorrectly, for example. All right, let's take a look at the operational processes and procedures. All right, so a data center is going to require a well-defined and reliable process and procedure to function optimally. So in order to run these processes and procedures, we need to have a swift response in the event that something unexpected occurs. Right, we're going to do things like to support the design, placement, decommissioning, and setup of equipment. Right, we want to quickly repair things, replace things that are in place. Having these protocols in place is crucial because the equipment in the data center can be complex and it's going to change quite frequently. So key elements to operational excellence are going to be having some change control, having facilities, human resources, security, preventative maintenance, and materials management in place. All right, so facilities are going to include personnel, documentation, system management, and maintenance of the data and the crucial elements inside the data center. Right, change control, which we've talked about in previous modules, is key because equipment in the data center is going to change frequently with advances in technology and as things age out and need to be decommissioned. The central role of human resources is to make sure that we have a consistent availability of qualified personnel and support staff that are well trained and have the proper maintenance people in place as well. Security is going to pertain to protection of the assets and information from theft, vandalism, natural and human-made calamities, and accidental damage. All right, preventative maintenance is going to help us ensure that all that data center equipment is up and running smoothly and that our facility structures are in working order, and we can perform repairs on a regular basis if they can prevent larger ones down the road. Material management is also necessary because we're going to have replacement parts in place. We're going to have interactions with different vendors, so materials management is necessary to maintain that runs smoothly. Other key components that drive operational excellence here are going to be things like capacity planning, efficiency management, data centers standard operating procedures, fire and safety management, deployment guidelines, and internal communications. Let's see if we can take a look at these in a little bit more detail. Capacity planning is going to ensure that we can house the requirements of the organizations that we support, right? We want to make sure that we have what we need to support our customers and that we can provide that in an economical way, right, so that we can be efficient. So efficiency management is we want to change and continually involve changes in capacity in data center equipment to run in the most efficient manner as possible, right? Again, like I said before, efficiency means usually you're doing better financially the more efficient that a data center is. All right, so data centers are going to have standard operating procedures that are guidelines that can help you to walk through any issues or any changes that take place. One of the reasons we want to do this is we want to make sure that things are done consistently every single time. All right, so we can also have fire and safety management that's going to make sure that we have proper PPE. We have things available for employees who deal with hazardous equipment, right? We want to keep people safe. We want to follow and maintain the proper regulatory guidelines that are out there as well. All right, deployment guidelines are going to be our reputable process that are designed to help us to ensure that we can bring in these resources, bring them up to speed quickly and efficiently. A lot of the times they'll come in the form of an activation checklist, deployment plan, installation procedures. So an activation checklist is going to be take that proper consideration of capacity planning, what the power needs are to run the equipment, how many racks do we need, bandwidth required, ISPs needed, that kind of thing. Right? The deployment plans are going to have our finalized technical specifications. Installation procedures are going to be the steps that we need to properly install the equipment so that we know that it is running properly. Our internal communications, right, it's going to make sure that all of our teams and departments are communicating back and forth and that people know what's going on. We want to keep everybody in the loop. All right, operating and measuring control. So again, some of this is repeat from previous modules. right? The data center, we're going to keep track of certain performance metrics. We're going to have an alert come if things are out of range. That way we can keep the data center operating in the way that we expect it to, and we can realign our performance if it's not matching what the plan is or what the expectations are. So with data center monitoring, it's going to be a bit complex. It's going to take up some manual and automated tools and methods that will give us some type of statistical insight, right? A mathematical conversion into performance metrics. We want to be able to maintain operational health, right? We want to monitor and analyze the data center operations periodically so that we can look for things that are wrong, irregular, and then fix them in a timely manner. Why do we do that? To maintain high availability. So if we can have functions and services that are available all the time, that is a selling point for our services. Right, we want to take a look at our current performance, see if we can maintain that in respect to increases in demand, or do we need to realign some things? And then we can also solve specific problems. We want to monitor the performance and availability of our IT equipment, and we also want to be able to monitor, keep track of our non-IT equipment like power supply, electrical systems, cooling and mechanical systems, and physical security of the facility. All right, so in our IT monitoring, we want to continually monitor device and configuration changes, performance, CPU, memory, and RAM utilizations, network and bandwidth measures. We want to be able to make sure we're monitoring security. We want to make sure we're monitoring our rack position, power consumption, utilization, and what's the health status of each of these devices in the infrastructure with our IT equipment. Again, benefits of monitoring: we can increase uptime, increase efficiency. We can take a look at our capacity management and have some improved visibility. Our non-IT monitoring, so non-IT components, we're going to take a look at things like power supply availability, power consumption, overall temperatures, cooling and ventilation unit performances, component health and status, and physical security. Okay, physical security is definitely something you should not overlook. It's really important as well. So it tells us here that we want to take a more holistic approach to monitoring our data center itself. Right, we want to look at environmental conditions like temperature, humidity, how much heat are we expelling from the facility. We want to use different monitoring tools because it tells us that a single aggregation tool isn't possible. We need to plan for availability and layout. So with our non-IT monitoring, we want to integrate with other sensors. We want to be able to manage alarms in the sensors there, and we can then monitor them, or even be able to monitor them remotely. All right, we want to be able to integrate with other sensors like humidity sensors, smoke, fire alarms, those kind of things all come into our overall system safety for our data center. We want to be able to manage the alarms and sensors that are coming in to improve uptime, improve overall efficiency by monitoring these conditions, notify the administrator if something's going on so that they can hopefully go out and avert any kind of critical issue, because it is crucial to specify the action path for each alarm. What are we going to do when this takes place? And large data centers, we can sometimes have third-party service providers that will do some remote monitoring. So some things we may not be able to monitor that well ourselves. We can contract with somebody else to come in and keep an eye on some of those sensors and send us alerts as well. All right, key performance indicators for the data center. We've hit on a lot of these before. What are our power needs? How is our network functionality being? How are we managing heat? And how are we managing storage? All right, so our operational metrics are going to be important to help us monitor and maintain the health of the data center. We want to be able to take action if we exceed our expected power performance. We want to make sure that our metrics are in the optimal range and that we can have adequate monitoring systems that are going to raise alerts and alarms when we are outside of our normal operational range. So we want to have computational power efficiency. We want to have heat efficiency. We want to have storage efficiency. Right? We don't want to be pushing any of these things to their maximum, to their limits. It results in higher heat output, higher electrical use. So we want to be able to maintain these things within the preferred Goldilocks zone, so to speak. We also want to make sure that we are running our network at adequate efficiency levels, that our load averages are in optimal range. We don't want to have overload, because then that trips circuits, which then causes power outages. We want to have work density and productivity measurements there, so that we know that we can have people in place to do the workload that they're intended to do. So all right, we've got lots of different operational metrics for the data center, and again, these are performance metrics that we can work to improve the efficiency and effectiveness of the data center.